Sims franchise has been a thing for 25 years, so it's absolutely a shock to nobody that things have changed. We've progressed from game to game, even from pack to pack sometimes, and things are constantly evolving, which of course leads to many myths and basically old wives' tales being spread around the community. And today I am putting a stop to that. Welcome to the Sims 4 Mythbusters. I asked you lot, and I also scanned all of my comments over the years for weird things that I've heard from community members and things that a lot of the time you just kind of assume to be true, but then you actually go into the game and it unfortunately doesn't work for you. And today we are going to go through 7 of those myths together, and I'm going to prove whether they are true or whether they are false, and if a sneaky little simmer has been lying to you for all these years. The first rumor that we are going to look at is actually all to do with pregnancy. So thankfully she is eating for 2. I've been asked whether, like in The Sims 3, you can actually change the gender of this baby whilst your sim is pregnant without MC Command Center. All of this is like just the game only, no mods included. I have all of my mods and CC disabled, and yes, you can change the gender whilst your sim is pregnant. You could obviously do none of these things and it would just be random chance of whether you had a boy or a girl at birth, but you can actually change this using the radio and also by eating some fruits and veg. In The Sims 4, it's actually alternative music to increase your chances of having a baby boy, and then it's pop music to actually have a baby girl or be more likely to have a girl. So we're actually going to go for a girl. We are going to change this to pop music, and we're actually gonna listen to that pop. Then for the food, it is strawberries for girls and carrots for boys. Unfortunately, I don't have either of those in our inventory, but I'm hoping that if I actually purchase some fruit seeds, that we may be able to get 1 or 2 strawberries, or maybe like 5. That would honestly probably up our chances a little bit more. Strawberries are quite rare. I feel like they're a lot more rare than carrots. We're instead just gonna buy a couple of these from Debug. We are honestly just gonna eat all of these. Whilst you can affect the baby's gender, you unfortunately can't affect the amount of children that you are gonna give birth to the way that you could in The Sims 3. I'm like 99% sure this might be a myth in of itself, but if you actually listened to kids music on the stereo, or you watched the kids TV channel, or read some pregnancy books, you could actually have a slightly higher chance of getting both twins and triplets in The Sims 3. Although I might have just had the fertile lifetime reward, which is the way that this happens in The Sims 4. You gotta scroll past every single one of these formative moments that we now have, and then if you actually have 3,000 lifetime aspiration points, you can actually get the fertile reward trait. Fertile Sims have an easier time when trying for a baby, higher chance of twins or triplets. If you have outdoor retreat and you are a level 10 in herbalism, you'll actually be able to make the elixir of fertility, which has pretty much the same effect. If you have spa day, you can book yourself in for a fertility massage. The masseuse has to be a level 9 in the wellness skill for that to actually be an option. So I don't know how many Sims who are working in spas are actually going to have that available, but you could have someone in your household that isn't the pregnant Sim get their wellness up, and they'll be able to offer it on the massage table. And then in city living, if we hop in to build mode and we go to the lot traits panel, you can choose on a ley line full of funky fertile earth energy, twins born here more often than not. That also works for on a dark ley line if you actually want twins when it comes to vampires. Just keep in mind, when it comes to most of the fertility options, you're gonna have the best results for those before you try for a baby. So make sure you put the ley line on, make sure you're having that massage before you're actually trying for a baby. The massage moodler actually lasts for 12 hours, so you'll need to try for a baby within that time period. I am so confident that this is going to have worked, considering I didn't even cheat the pregnancy. This is such Sims 1 core. Just having a baby randomly placed in the kitchen. The only thing that would make it more accurate was if the baby didn't actually grow up. Babs just gave birth to a baby girl, Melissa. Whilst we're waiting for Babs to take in all that sweet pop music and honestly birth the next Ariana Grande, we're gonna send Ollie off to the park in Oasis Springs because I want to try and get a cowplant seed, and I feel like that's always the best place to find it. Don't worry, this does have a through line to the music. A diva born into this world has to be raised by a former diva, and that former diva is about to be our cowplant. I want to see if cowplants actually do dance to stereos. Usually cowplants just kind of like sway like forwards and backwards at like a very slow rate, and I've never actually tested or honestly even bothered to look whether they do actually dance to radios, because it's not that much of a game-changing thing for me, you know, it's just a little animation. However, I do like small little details. Second fish that we got, and it was a cowplant seed. Thank you, Ollie. Now that is the look that I need for the rest of this video, and let's travel back home and get that planted in our house right in front of the stereo. This is its current animation without any music. You can kind of see that it's just moving in like the S shape. It just kind of feels like it's bobbing along in the breeze. There's nothing too fancy about that animation, but then if we go into build mode, I've just turned move object on, and ooh, it's interacting with the music. Did you see that? It was so inquisitive. It was like, ooh, this is my jam. And they do in fact dance to music. He is swaying away, got the groove. That is so cute. Can we do any like special interactions? No, you can't like talk about music or anything like that, but it definitely seems that our cowplant is a fan of the pop tunes. We're actually gonna change the station to classical and see if that has like any effect maybe on the movement. The bell is also jingling away. It definitely makes a lot more noise when music is playing around it. No change in like how it actually reacts to music though, depending on the genre that you're listening to. Obviously, with the introduction of seasons, we have the introduction of weather. And I'm fairly sure this is an interaction I've probably never ran within the game, but we're actually gonna have Ollie come over here. We're gonna go to friendly and small talk, and we can declare a weather preference. Declare love for, declare preference for, or declare hate for. We're actually going to say that we have a preference for cool temperatures. Then we're going to declare love. You can do rain, snow, sun, or wind, and we are going to go for rain. Now, I've heard from some people that this actually lowers the chances of your sim being scared by storms. However, storms aren't actually an option there. You can't like say that you love thunderstorms. So I really want to see if maybe choosing cooler weather and then also having a love for rain does mean that he's less likely to become scared by thunderstorms, because I absolutely hate it when it's storming within my game and my sims are just screaming and running around incoherently. Now this actually isn't shown anywhere. It's not in your Simology panel. I'm fairly sure if we go to like her relationship and open up the profile, we won't really see like any of his preferences, but we know that we have just chosen it. And I also know that I have the weather changing machine over here. So we're going to change this to thunderstorm and see if Ollie actually has any reactions to it. This is why they say you should never work with Sims. You could honestly script a video as much as you wanted to, but who said that your sims are actually gonna listen to you? Finally, at level 7 of the handiness skill, that worked. The weather controller has successfully changed the weather to thunderstorms. He is running inside, and he is the one who has the preference for the rain, although he doesn't have the scared emotion of what am I doing out here. He just looked a little bit spooked, but he actually wasn't spooked. So I guess that one is kind of true. It does allow you to not be scared of thunderstorms. However, it doesn't really change the gameplay all that much because your sim will still look shocked that it's thunderstorming and they'll still want to be inside, like, as a preference anyway. But could be handy for those of you who like to play rags to riches, where you maybe don't have, like, any shelter on your lot and you don't want your sims to be scared 24/7. They can't root indoors when there's no shelter. Now, this is something that I have tested in the past for my own benefit. I've seen a lot of people say, especially when Eco Lifestyle came out, I found it really, really weird that you couldn't really sell the furniture that you created on the fabricator machine. And obviously, if you have Get to Work, you can sell it in a retail store. So many people were telling me that you could sell it on the City Living tarp. That, I think, is because so many people are used to going to the flea market where vendors will kind of have, like, furniture on these. So everyone just expects them to actually be playable. However, they are not. I have this, like, tire seat over here, but you click on the top. It's not like a selling table. It doesn't have an inventory. There are literally no interactions that you can do on it other than, like, go here, because it works just as a rug. And this is the one from City Living. I'm fairly sure we also have one from Outdoor Retreat as well. It's called It's Not a Tarp. Well, it's not just a tarp. And then we have It's a Tarp from Outdoor Retreat. This doesn't work outside of the flea market. Like I said, I have that kind of chair on it. We also have this chair, but it doesn't have an inventory, so you actually can't sell anything on here. If we were placing bets on these and I was gonna put in my prediction, I think I would predict that this one is going to be a myth. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, and I will hold my hands up and say I might have played a role in this, because I actually, at one point in my short lifespan legacy, my Nightmare Legacy challenge, very, very early on, I kind of had a thumbnail and a title that might have suggest that Sims could actually, like, crash land and pass away. They could expire in the rocket ship. But I want to actually test if that is a thing. Now, this one's going to be pretty hard to test because crash landing, like, can happen very, very inconsistently. I think the rate and the percentage chance of you crash landing are actually quite low. However, I do think we could maybe up those chances because Babs over here has a level 8 in Mischief. And when you have a level 8 in Mischief, you can stuff a fruit into the port exhaust or exhaust port, which I think means that this is, like, gonna malfunction more. So she's gonna put a potato in here. Oh my goodness, she actually needs to, like, hammer it into there. That's so weird. I was weirdly just expecting, like, a little interaction, maybe just like a swipe animation or something like that. I wasn't actually expecting this to be a full-on interaction that we needed to do with the rocket ship that kind of looks like you're fixing it up. And then we're gonna have Ollie go and explore space, and hopefully he will crash land. Now, I've never had a sim pass away as they've crash landed, and like I said, my prediction is that this is going to be a myth. Oh, I mean, that was a crash landing for sure. So you've got this little, like, spoke over here, and then your sim actually climbs out from the wreckage. We are feeling a little burn, and we are in fact dazed. For 4 hours, crash landing in a rocket ship would leave any sim feeling dazed. I should have built 2 rockets so that on this time frame we wouldn't have to wait for this to be rebuilt. Babs, hurry up, we got 2 hours until this moodlet goes away. He has 57 minutes of this moodlet remaining, which I genuinely don't think I could have condensed that anymore. I practically had her stuff the fruit in there, like, as soon as he crash landed and we had rebuilt it. And we only had 4 hours to do that. But I have a feeling that if this doesn't work with the Days moodlet, then you can't die from it. The dinotherms immediately explode out of the ship. Well, is he gonna climb out of here? The wheel's gonna go past, or a window. I think that's a window. Why would a spaceship have wheels? Let's be so serious right now. He's still pulling himself out. He can definitely save himself, and boom. I don't think that this is possible. I'll maybe try it one more time. We're risking a dangerous landing maneuver. Yeah, you could say that was pretty dangerous. And we actually did have the days moodlet. Ollie made a crash landing from space, but any landing you can walk away from. That makes me feel like that is the Sims team way of being like, don't worry, your Sims actually can't pass away from this. The fact that it says any landing you can walk away from, we actually had the days moodlet that time around. It was sticking with us throughout the whole thing, and we still didn't manage to expire Ollie, which means that this myth is just that and has been debunked. One of my favorite things that has ever been introduced in The Sims 4 is this right here, which came with kids room stuff, and this is actually the Voidcritter battle station. Now, Voidcritters are basically the Sims 4 version of Pokemon. Now, I have actually added a child into my household for this one specifically because I have heard that teenagers and above can't actually play with Voidcritters. And right now, the child doesn't even have interactions with this battle station. However, if we go to study and we actually just purchase a computer or a laptop for them, and we can purchase Voidcritter booster packs, we are going to go for ×5. Honestly, realistic to Pokemon nowadays. 25 simoleons per pack. That is what scalpers do. But we're going to go for 5 of these booster packs for 125 simoleons. They actually don't even need to walk up to the computer, and this is actually even more of a ripoff than Pokemon cards because they unfortunately only get 1 card per pack. So how they are calling that a booster is beyond me. But we got 5 different types. We're actually going to give one of the repeats that we got to our sister. Now we can actually choose to train a Voidcritter. So we can train any of the cards that we have. You can see that that is fully available to this child sim. However, if I click on the teenager who also has a card on their inventory, it stays blocked out. So this myth is correct. You actually cannot have teenagers, young adults, or elders play on this. It's only available to children. You can't even have toddlers play on this. This is a kids only thing, which I kind of wish that they had let you do this for teens at least. If we actually had another kid on the lot right now, or if teenagers would be allowed to use this, we could also battle our Voidcritters against each other. However, I do know that there is a mod that allows any age to be able to play with the Voidcritter battle station. But this video isn't about mods. It's what you can and can't do purely in the game. Open the schools, we're forgetting the ancient text of lights. I wanted to download a light sim, but the kids these days have forgotten who she is. You don't know music like I do. This one is more for myself. I haven't seen really anyone talk about this, and I kind of love doing sciencey little videos where I test out what is or isn't true or how something affects a sim. So I decided to do a little experiment that actually would show us if having auto lights turned on your lot would actually affect your bills. So this is the house. I don't really have anything electrical in here. I don't have a TV. I don't have a radio. I kind of just have stuff that I know my sim is going to do that hopefully won't really affect the bills. Obviously, we have a bathroom, and your water usage also affects your bills, I'm fairly sure. So I have this locked, and I'm only going to allow these sims to go to the bathroom like twice a day and hope that that is okay. We do have a fridge and an oven, but again, I'm going to hope and pray that even with free will on, because I didn't want to turn it off, although I might, that they are only going to want to eat like twice a day. And sometimes they're just going to eat leftovers, so hopefully they won't even have to really use this oven. We're going to play like a Sims week, or at least until until I get the bills come through. And we're gonna see how much those bills cost in a house with the lights on. And then I have the exact same house. That is gonna be the one that we play with auto lights on to see if anything goes any different. I'm gonna try and make sure that I start the other one at like Wednesday at 58 p.m. I'm gonna try my best to keep these as similar as possible, apart from having auto lights on and then also the lights on just all of the time. I'm of course not going to record every single day, but I kind of want to show you the routine that I have written down. So 6 to 8 a.m, have a meal and then also go to the bathroom. So we're going to go for eggs and toast. I'm hoping after making like a serving of this for the week, and hopefully our bills actually arrive within that week, we'll just be able to live off the leftovers. We also don't have anything in our household inventory. If I get anything in my Sims inventory, I will also delete that, because all of these things I'm fairly sure can play a role into how much your bills are gonna be, and I want to try and like not affect that the most that I possibly can. And then we're gonna unlock the bathroom, we are gonna use the toilet, and we're also going to just take a shower. And then until 1 p.m, I am gonna have my Sim read. We are obviously gonna lock that bathroom back up. I also had to add in some bins so that the plates weren't accumulating on our lot. But don't worry, I obviously will add the same bins into the household when we move the other Sim in, when we're doing this with auto lights. I just really need to try and keep her fun up. I haven't really taken into account social, and unfortunately I thought adults would be able to play with these, but they can't. So we are maybe just gonna have to go outside and talk to some Sims in the afternoon just to make sure that's not getting too low. For meals, I've just done the bare basic. For dinner, I've just gone for mac and cheese. But like I said, hopefully we'll only have to make a big serving of this once, and then we can just live off the leftovers. Every time they use the toilet, I'm also letting them wash their hands. And then we're gonna practice some guitar for the evening. And around 10 p.m, I'm finally gonna send my Sims back off to sleep. So apparently after one day in our household, now I don't really know how bills work. I'm going to be so real with you all. I have this set to auto sell. We've barely used any water, and we've used minus 27 in electricity on the first day, which is apparently minus 31.74. Obviously, a lot of that 210 simoleons comes from the lot taxes, which is the value of all the objects on the lot and the value. Power is currently only minus 16. What a rubbish way to start your week in this game. Monday morning, bright and early. Well, I say bright and early. It's 10:30, but finally the mail person came, and we owe 210 in lot taxes, which I'm fairly sure is just gonna stay the same between both of these houses, considering it is the same. Wait, actually, that could change because of the size. I might keep it on this lot and just like get rid of this house, or save this house because technically there's not any extra, add this house back to this lot, and then obviously turn off the lights. We owe 67 simoleons in power, 4 simoleons in water, no other taxes. So in total, that is 281, which we are, of course, going to pay those bills because I don't want them rolling over. 10:58 p.m. on a Wednesday, same sim, same house, but obviously slightly different because they're new ones. And we are going to come over to these lights. We are going to auto lights all lights in the house. And if you have no idea what this means, it basically means when your sim is like walking through the house, you'll see here, as soon as she enters the living room, the lights will come on. I usually do this just for a little bit more realism. You can obviously customize them a little bit more, especially if you have like more lamps around. Sometimes to get like the vibes correct in a house, lighting is a really big part of that for like Let's Plays and series and like family homes and things like that. So you can actually just customize each lamp. You can do auto lights, all lights this room. You can also just like, I tend to keep like lower lighting lamps on all the time for recording, especially because The Sims 4 is quite dark, but so are like all the other Sims games. And all it means is that when your sim is in that room and they are actually not sleeping, the lights will be on. Now, I did have my sim leave a couple of times. I obviously had her like work on her logic, so I'm also gonna have this sim leave a couple of times, but I'm gonna do pretty much the same kind of routine, and we'll see if that actually affects the bills. I mean, even if she's like outside and then auto lights don't actually affect the bills, then nothing will change. There might be a slight discrepancy between like how much my last sim spent outside and how much this sim is spending outside, but she's not going to spend every day outside, so I don't think it's going to have too much of an effect. It is almost time for the grand reveal. Here's the postie. Today's mail has been delivered. Are you serious? Auto lights means that you use more? No. Wait, that's so weird. The lot taxes are different, but it's literally the exact same lot. That's really, really confusing. And I don't think we have anything different about it. Like, our household inventory hasn't changed, so technically the total is actually more right now. It was 281 in the last house, same exact amount of time. Our water in the last house was also 4 simoleons, so you can tell that I was pretty on it when it came to when they could shower and use the toilet. We also used slightly less power. Now again, that might be because perhaps I had this sim spend a little bit more time outside, and so the lights weren't like always on, but pretty much around the same. Last time it was 67 simoleons for the power. This time around it was 61 simoleons. Keep in mind that's obviously without having a lot of electronics on the lot. Really all we were using was like the fridge. So this was kind of just always running, I assume. Like I said, I don't really know like in depth how the bills work in The Sims 4, but there was a little bit of change. I'm confused by that lot tax. I want to know what was different, because this was literally the exact same house on the exact same lot. That is so weird. So auto lights can potentially change your power and like how much your bills cost. However, I don't think it's enough to like justify it if you don't want your lights off all the time. Like I said, I do it due to personal preference and how I like how realistic it kind of looks, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think you're really gonna notice a difference of what, 6 simoleons. I would love to hear it if you learned anything new today, if this just confirmed what you thought, if you've googled something in the past and someone has said something where you're like, I don't know if that feels quite right. Let me know down in the comments. I would of course also love to hear any other myths you've heard about The Sims 4 or maybe The Sims 3. I feel like those are the two where you get like the most misinformation, especially like more recently because they are the 2 more recent games. But who knows, maybe I'll do more myth busting in the future. So if there's anything you would like to see that you maybe don't know about that you've read online, leave it in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.